sometimes I believe I am no longer sure of anything. An example would be today. I was sitting outside my institution when a leaf blew into my hair. A real leaf. From a real tree outside our yard. I reached up a hand and crushed it, as one does. But when I looked at the leaf, I had a feeling. I thought about how I had crushed that leaf without even thinking, out of habit. I thought about how this is what I do. Touch things and ruin them without even trying. I thought about how I'm a con girl now, a confirmed negative influence of society who has to be put in this place apart from everyone because she is such a harm to others. All this because of a leaf which was already dead. The place to begin is my end of semester meeting with my assigned process learning advisor, Mr. Borain. Now, the thing I must stress at the outset is that I believe Mr. Borain is a good person. I've never once doubted that he wanted the best for me and my life processes. He has 2 little girls at home for which he cares very tenderly. I arrived at his office punctually, and the first thing Mr. Borain said was, "Hi, Sophie. I hope you're doing okay." Which I almost started crying because, as Mr. Borain knew, I was not doing okay, and there was practically nothing I could do to change that. But it was nice of him to say that. Numerous studies over the past decade have proven that social media use is directly linked to mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, and even PTSD. An October 2022 article from Discover magazine shows that in addition to these mental health concerns, social media is also affecting how we engage with one another in the real world. And this, along with the fear of missing out, is perpetuating an endless cycle of addiction, trauma, and comparison. As we continue to use these platforms, one starts to wonder how this will affect our society in the coming decades. Will we be strong enough to overcome it? Or will we be forced to judge every aspect of a person based only on their social media profile? Con Girl by Nick Wolven. "Let's see what we have here," Mr. Borain said, flicking through his files. "Now, Sophie, I want you to know that everything that happens in this interview is entirely private and unrecorded. Of course, if you in any way violate the campus interpersonal conduct policy, that will have to be immediately reported. Now, let's get going." He brought up a chart that showed my grades and a chart that showed my peer networks and 100 other charts that showed 100 different things. But at the center of it all was my pro-con holistic score, glowing on the display in the middle of the wall, so awful I could hardly look at it. "I'm looking at your record, Sophie, and it seems, especially your holistic score, well, we've started to see..." "I know. I'm in the yellow, and I can explain." What follows is a quote from my family's vice assistant child rearing advisor, who prepared my first ever psychological profile. "Sophie is incredibly well-developed sensitivities. Her facial readings are advanced for her age, and her various empathetic reactions are off the charts. I have always endeavored to use my empathetic and facial reading talents, such as they may be, for the constructive support of others. In my 14th year, when my mother decided that my father was no longer fulfilling her needs as a life partner, I did whatever I could to show them that I supported them both, which I posted every day on my PermaMe profile. And it was during this admittedly trying interval that I noticed my efforts did not go unacknowledged, because partway through the year, my teacher, Miss Ebro, requested a private meeting with me. She told me how she and the other teachers had observed what was occurring with me, how they had been following the posts my mother had been making on her rant space page about my father and the divorce. She and the other teachers had been observing my behavior in response to these developments, and they appreciated my maturity. She said that she had talked to the other teachers and that they would be factoring these considerations into my holistic semester scores in conjunction with my scholastic grades. After that, my pro-con holo score went very green. I used to pull up the covers at night and turn on my palm screen and sit in a kind of glowing green cave. and think about all the opinions that have gone into that score and how it was presented to me in such a simple green light. Mr. Borain tapped his own palm screen to display some records, which I didn't recognize. Do these mean anything to you? These are your private and public parties who have agreed to invest in your education. They all contributed to the financing of your education, Sophie, because your hollow score positioned you as a highly potential individual. With my approval, you'll soon be meeting with the representatives for these parties for your final academic review. They'll be evaluating you for opportunities. But Sophie, tell me, what do you think these people will say if they find out that one of our top empathetic performers is, as it seems, deeply biased? Mr. Borain, I can explain. And what I explained was how, when I'm in the scanning machines, engaging with all the powerful issues and the stories I'm experiencing, sometimes I start to worry that I might have a problematic response, and at times I get so worried that I make myself have the response, but only for the sake of understanding the response as part of my ever-vigilant effort not to have the response. So the real-time empathetic assessment machines, as I told Mr. Borain, are probably only picking up evidence of my constant mental vigilance against such responses, and of my earnest and engaged grappling with even the possibility of such responses. If that makes sense. My job, Sophie, is to prepare you for your final review. What's valuable today is the ability to read human beings. That is what recruiters want. What message do you think it will send if I let you meet with those recruiters, a graduating student of this college, and explain to them that after $3 million and several years of top-tier education, well, what do you think they'll say when they learn you're prone to empathizing with the wrong kinds of people? Sophie, I'm afraid I cannot approve you for graduation at this time. I looked at Mr. Borain and I was feeling many feelings, but mostly I just thought about Mr. Borain. How in that video on his PermaMe profile, when one of his little girls got scared by ducks and she ran and put her face in his shirt, and it was like Mr. Borain didn't even need to think. He just kept feeding the ducks and smiling, and in her arms, he held her to him. And the next thing I knew, alarms were ringing and Mr. Borain was jumping away wide-eyed and shouting and pounding on his palm screen. And I saw how, without even thinking about it, I'd gotten out of my chair and pressed my face against his chest. I need to report a violation of the Interpersonal Conduct Code, Section 25B, Section 812. Note, non-sexual content was initiated by the student in an approved private meeting. I have disengaged and am now departing the location. Then, just before he left, he tapped his palm screen. And the last thing I remember was looking at my own palm and seeing the effect of the assessment that he had given me, which was my own palm glowing a deep, ugly red. It feels strange to be in a home for con women. Everyone here is so deep in the red, confirmed negative influence to society. Nobody can understand why I'm in this place. To be honest, I don't understand either. I used to be at the top of the pro ratings, attended a prestigious university, go to meetings with the top business leaders. What I want now is for my narrative to be a help to others and aid them in the pitfalls that I have taken. Though there are times where I feel like I will never understand.